following is a presentation of the Retro Network.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Retro Resurgence podcast. You are tuned in to episode number 36 of the show, and we're glad that you found your way back to us, where we'll take you on another trip down that long and winding road of nostalgic memories and retro fun. As always, I am one half of the team here at the Retro Resurgence, Ken, and on the other end, my co-host, my podcast partner, the guru of 90s gaming, the Sultan of the SNES. Chad, what's going on?
Oh, man, good evening, Ken. The Sultan of the SNES. I'll take it for tonight's episode, that's for sure.
Yeah, man. How you doing tonight?
Good. It's hard to believe, man. It's already March, right?
Yeah, already March. I've got a birthday coming up in about 2.5 weeks. So, yeah, man, already March, getting ready for March Madness to kick in. So, yeah, we're ready.
Well, that'll be exciting, dude. Got any plans?
As of right now, no. We have a lot of birthdays in March on both sides of the family. So I got me, one of my brother-in-laws has a birthday. My two youngest boys both have birthdays in March. Yeah, I got to give a shout out to my niece, Allison. I'm pretty sure she doesn't listen to the show, but her and her boyfriend just had a baby last night. So we welcomed a new member to the family on my wife's side. So yeah, congratulations to Allie and Willie. I love you guys. So maybe someday they'll hear this and, you know.
What did they have, a little boy, a little girl?
They had a little boy, yep.
Very cool, man. Well, congrats to the family and your wife's family.
Yeah.
That's exciting. For us, April is going to be a big month for us with family birthdays. And also, I think sometimes October is a pretty big one in my family. So
okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it's getting the warmer weather is sort of sneaking up on us. Not sure if we're quite out of the woods yet. Especially where you are, you know, I know these things can seem a little bit premature, and then all of a sudden you're hit with below freezing once again. But.
Well, hopefully we're out of those woods. Like I was just telling you off air before we recorded, we got some 60s coming, but, you know, that can always change. The following week could be back down into the 30s. But, yeah, I hope we're done with the below zero snow, so... Yeah, springtime's coming.
Yeah, I remember talking to you back in like late November and early December, and it was brutally cold, and you were thinking maybe this will be a good thing because then, we'll get an early spring. So.
Yeah, hopefully that's true.
My wife and daughter went to the beach yesterday and said it was a very nice day out there at the beach. So we got, spring break is heading here for some of the colleges and schools later this month and Easter. So yeah, man, we're excited to be seeing that warmer weather. And, Yeah, excited to be here on with the episode with you tonight, Ken. Just reminiscing about the good old days once again, like we do.
Right, as always. So before we get into our recurrent events and the main topic, let's get into some feedback that we had from last episode. It was episode 35, and that was our top 5 1980s and 1990s movie montages. Of course, I tackled the 80s and you tackled the 90s. That was a fun episode to do. What do you think?
Yes, I loved it, man. And the clips that you put on, it was a montage of montages that you put over there on Instagram. I watched that several times in the last couple of weeks, man. And both your 5 80s picks and my 5 90s picks. It was pretty cool, man. Yeah, we got some good feedback from it.
Yeah, so let's get to the feedback here from Serpy Matt. He says, fantastic episode. Absolutely agree with Ken's top 2 picks, and he definitely had them in the right order. Yeah, so if you guys listened, I had the Karate Kid, You're the Best montage, and then I had the Hearts on Fire montage from Rocky IV. So I'm glad he agreed with that and that I got the top 2 in the right order. And then we got our buddy Jim over at the Busy Signal Cast. He always gives us some good feedback. And he says, jam-packed episodes. Impressed with the Toy Story montage, love. That was one of your picks, Chad, from Toy Story in your 90s montages.
Yeah, and I just I learned from that comment that Jim's a big fan of Toy Story, so I enjoy that pick myself.
And then he says, I was wondering if Rocky IV was going to make this list. Glad it did. Party on, dudes. So yeah, a lot of people I think would say that the Rocky IV montage would have to be one of the top 80s montages. So yeah, we had that in there.
Yeah, and Ken, about that montage show, we had done a little back and forth with our buds over there at the Totally 80s and 90s Recall.
Yeah.
And, we were just chatting about some stuff, and they enlightened me and said that they had done an 80s montage episode about a year and a half ago. So yesterday I went and listened to it, and they had a lot of the same picks. They had your Bloodsport. They had Teen Wolf.
Oh, okay.
They had, of course, Rocky IV. They had Karate Kid. They also had, actually had Rocky. They didn't do like a top list. They just did sort of a,
random.
Yeah. But, they threw in Rocky III, the montage from Rocky III, which, we all know all the Rockies have lots of different montages. And then, they also had, I'm trying to recall, they actually had Footloose and Dirty Dancing.
Okay.
Which, are pretty good montages in and of themselves. And I'm trying to think, did they have anything else? They pretty much had a lot of the picks that you had. So, they're pretty good episode. It was all the way back in 2024. And, listeners, if you want to check them out, they're the Totally 80s and 90s Recall over on Instagram. And, they've got a weekly show there. They do a pretty good job over there.
Yeah, those are some good guys, Dave and Rob. They always have fun episodes and topics, and 2 really good guys over there. So, yeah, we like to give those guys a shout-out whenever we can.
Yeah, and one more shout-out, Jim over there at the Busy Signal. He went on Apple and left us a good review.
Yes.
I kind of mentioned that we'd like to have some reviews from the last episode, and Jim went out there and did us a favor, did us a solid. So, Jim, thanks for the nice, kind review over on Apple Podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Jim, for that. I read it. It was really nice. So, yeah, thank you for that, Jim.
Do we have any other feedback?
Yeah, one more. We're going to round out the feedback from, of course, Jero Space. And he says, Rocky and Karate Kid just have to be on this list. Got to give props to Dirty Dancing, Top Gun, and Breakfast Club rounding out my top 5. Fun topic, guys. So, yeah, there's Jero Space. He would agree with the Rocky and Karate Kid also. And then he's going to put Dirty Dancing, Top Gun, and Breakfast Club in his list. Yeah, Chad, so that's going to round out our feedback. Like we always say, if you're a regular listener to the show, or if you happen to be a new listener, we always welcome all the feedback we can get, and we'll always read it on the show, whether, good or bad.
Absolutely.
So that's the feedback. What do you say we get to some recurrent events?
Let's do it. All right, Ken, well, we're back here with our recurrent events segment, a news article or two that we randomly pluck over there out on the internet. And full disclosure, I had a little tough time finding some retro news, but the article that I plucked out today, I wouldn't say it's retro. It has no ties to the 80s or 90s, but it has ties on the thing that we're doing right now, which is podcasting. And this article comes from TechCrunch, TechCrunch.com on February 25th, written by Amanda Silberling. And she writes, Americans now listen to podcasts more often than talk radio. Now, we're 2026, the traditional AM, FM radio, I thought podcasts would have pretty much taken over at least for the last 5 years. Wouldn't you say, Ken?
Yeah, I would even say maybe a little bit further than that. Maybe at least maybe the last maybe 7 to 10. But I mean, it's not hard to believe because I still listen to the radio, but I can definitely believe that people listen to podcasts more than the radio. Yeah, I kind of consider those like podcasts kind of still like radio in my opinion. But yeah, man, it's that day and age where it finally changed over, I guess, huh?
Yeah, the coin finally flipped. And the article, just to summarize, the podcasts have officially surpassed traditional AM, FM talk radio as America's top format for the spoken word audio. According to Edison's research, podcasts now account for about 40% of all spoken word listening, just edging out AM, FM radio, which was now at 39%. So, yeah, the coin finally flipped. Of course, the shift has been happening for years as podcast listening has steadily grown while traditional radio declines. And still the fact that radio has held on this long shows how resilient that medium has been. Another major trend shaping the industry is the rise of video podcasts. Platforms like YouTube and Spotify are now driving huge viewership, with YouTube reporting around 700 million hours of podcast viewing each month. And that is up from 2025, where the number was 400 million the year before. So, not just audio podcasts, but, YouTube and Spotify are sort of now getting into the video side. And actually, I sent you a message a couple weeks ago where Apple, probably later this year, they're going to be allowing video podcasts to be in their podcast app. So not only will you, have something to listen to, you'll have something there to watch. And anyway, with video's growth, audio is still, of course, at its core, an essential core. Studies show that 80% of adults consume audio and video podcasts. And today, an estimated 115 million Americans tune into podcasts every week, and it just highlights how dominant the medium has become. So, I thought, this isn't retro, of course, but this is obviously what me and you have been doing for the last year and a half or so, Kit. Right. So I thought the figures there were interesting, and the fact that audio podcasts are now surpassed talk radio, which, how long did talk radio have its heyday,
Oh, man, decades.
60, 70 years.
Yeah.
Gosh, you just think about back in the old days, the 20s and 30s where, you used to listen to baseball on radio. And, and then you had, talk shows and those first early days of AM, FM radio. So, man, it's, times are changing, but it's a new day here in the world of podcasting. And, 40%, I'm sure next year that number will grow and the gap will be, even further, and AM, FM will eventually just have a very small portion of the market, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say have to agree with you on that. Going back to the radio real quick, whenever I think of old radio and stuff like you were talking about, I always go back to that scene in A Christmas Story when Ralphie and Randy go get ready to listen to Little Orphan Annie on the radio.
Yeah, dude. And you think for that era, the radio was huge, man. That's why baseball became America's pastime because,
Yeah,
before the advent of TV, I mean, you could listen to baseball games and, baseball is one of those sports where, a good announcer can paint the picture and, you don't necessarily need video to go with it. And, yeah, man,
exactly.
it's just interesting that the time that we're in and, me and you both, I talk about this a lot at work because I work in the tech field and I'm sort of in between eras because I remember days before the internet and now in today's world if you're born post 2000 you don't know what it was like to not have internet. You don't know what it was like to only get your information through TV or radio and the internet, social media and everything has just changed how we operate on a daily basis. So
Right.
it's cool to be living in a time where we can remember vividly being in both eras.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's my bit of retro but not so retro news. Ken, I know you got a little bit more retro theme to yours, so what do you got?
Oh yeah, this is gonna definitely bring back those 80s feels. So I thought since our main topic today, which we're gonna get to in a little bit here, is gonna deal with video games, I have a video game set to be released on April 28th. This is from the developer Bitmap Bureau and the publisher Limited Run Games. And this video game is going to be available for, I believe, PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Nintendo Switch. And this video game is called Masters of the Universe, Dragon Pearl of Destruction. Take control of He-Man, Man-at-Arms, and Teela in a fast-paced magic brawler that blends the crunch of arcade classics with the high fantasy action of the animated series. So a little bit about this game. It was, like I said, developed by the retro specialists at Bitmap Bureau in collaboration with Mattel. This is the 2D arcade brawler fans have been waiting for since the Saturday mornings of their childhood. So yeah, man, this is going to be a game based on the Masters of the Universe cartoon. And Chad, if we go up here at the top of the article here, there's a few screenshots, and it definitely gives you those cartoon feels. So this first one here, you have He-Man fighting Evil Lyn with the throne in the background. You have Man-at-Arms and Teela. And I'll put a link in the show notes for this link so people can see what we're talking about.
Yeah, as you've been talking, I've been looking at these screen captures, and the game releases in late April over there out on Steam, which is a very big platform for PC gamers and stuff. But but it's got a lot of other platforms, like you said, PS5 and others. But yeah, this game, man, it is really cool. A retro lover's dream.
Oh yeah. Just a couple little more notes here. It's going to have 12 action-packed stages. Battle your way across the diverse landscapes of Eternia, from the Royal Palace and the Vine Jungle to the dark corridors of Snake Mountain. It's also going to feature a classic co-op action. Team up with a friend in two-player local co-op to deliver double the justice. Perfect for those who grew up playing side-by-side at the arcade. And then deep-cut villains. Square off against iconic foes including Skeletor, Evil Lyn, Beastman, and Trapjaw, along with deep lore appearances like the Dark Sorceress, Shakoti, and the Shadow Beast. So yeah, man, this got everything you wanted. There never was a He-Man video game back in the day, so, if you ever wanted one of those back then, this will definitely scratch that itch with the 2D graphics and the side-scrolling beat-em-up. And, of course, the characters from He-Man. So, yeah, man, that's what I thought I'd go with for my recurrent event for this episode.
Yeah, and you can't fail to mention that there'll be a stage where you can ride Battle Cat through the stage and tear through Skeletor's minions with tooth and claw. So it's dude, this looks like you would find this right in the middle of the 80s decade at arcade, and you'd be dropping quarters all day from this one.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I'm probably going to buy the physical copy for Nintendo Switch, I think. So, yeah, I'm excited for this to come out, and I'll probably be buying it.
Awesome. Well, we'll look forward to that release late April. And yeah, He-Man fans, video game fans, you've got your wish there. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Dragon Pearl of Destruction, coming soon.
The decade of decadence, the 1980s, is primed and ready for you to rediscover in podcast form. Celebrating the pop culture that made us, the Rediscover the 80s podcast has several unique shows that explore our favorite decade. Our lineup includes Memory Jogger podcasts, Rank 'em, and various interviews to whet your appetite. Listen to the Rediscover the 80s podcast in your favorite listening apps. The Rediscover the 80s podcast, helping you reconnect with your favorite pop culture from the 1980s.
All right, Chad, we are back for the main topic of the show here on the Retro Resurgence podcast, episode 36. And for this episode, it was your turn to come up with the topic. And if you're listening, you already know what the topic's going to be. But Chad, why don't you tell us what we're going to be talking about tonight?
Well, we're going to tip our hat to our first ever episode, Ken, all the way back in September of 2024. Man, seems like a decade ago, right?
Yeah, it does.
But we kicked off Retro Resurgence with our top 5 Nintendo Entertainment System games. That was a fun way for us to get started with what we do here. And I just had it in the tank that I wanted to do Super Nintendo at some point, and tonight is that night. We and Ken have both brought 5 SNES titles to the game here. And Ken, before we get started, tell me your memories and your history with Super Nintendo. Was this a platform you had a lot, or was it something you didn't play a lot? What was your history?
Yeah, so I got the Super Nintendo when I was in the military. We've talked about my military days living in Hawaii. And so around 1993, 94, 95, I did have a Super Nintendo. And I also had a Sega Genesis at the same time. So I had both of those platforms together. But yeah, man, I played a lot of Super Nintendo, and I kind of gave that the edge over my Sega Genesis, to be honest.
Really?
So yeah, I was in my late teens, early 20s around the time that I was playing Super Nintendo.
Same here. The bulk of my teenage years and my late childhood years was in this 90s decade. And SNES, I resonate with it the most. I did have a Genesis. I bought it from an uncle of mine, probably with birthday money or something. And so yeah. I did have, I had a little rolling cart. I remember this like it was yesterday. I had a little wooden rolling cart connected to a tube TV. On the top was my SNES, and I had my games. In the middle, I had my Nintendo Power, stacks of Nintendo Power magazine.
Ah, yeah.
And then on the bottom shelf, I had my Genesis. And, you know, I'd roll up the cables, the cords on those controllers. And, you know, I had 2 for Nintendo, 2 for Genesis. But I did a lot of, you know, I lived out in the country, so I didn't really have friends come over. You know, so I did a lot of one-player playing on both these consoles. But, I love the Genesis, and there's some games on the Genesis that I absolutely love, but SNES is where I have the most history. So yeah, we're gonna go sort of this is gonna be a true top 5 show where We're gonna go down from 5 to 1 and count it down. And you know, listeners, me and Ken often like to unintentionally match. And that could happen here today with the list here of Super Nintendo titles. So Ken, if you got anything else to say, let's just go ahead and get to our picks. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm ready, man. Let's get into it.
Alrighty. So I'm going to kick things off with my number 5 choice.
Okay.
And here is a little soundbite from that game.
Well, you stumped me. I don't know that one.
I thought this one might get you. This one is going to be out of all my picks. This is going to be a little bit on the obscure side, but the title won't be obscure, but the pick will. This is the intro or the opening from the SNES game Aladdin.
Okay.
Now, I'm a young kid then, and I do see Aladdin, when it's released on VHS in the early 90s. This game, Aladdin, though, was made by Capcom. Now, fans of video games will know that Capcom was a big video game publisher, and especially in the arcades. Ken, you know the title that Capcom, one of their most famous titles, don't you?
Probably Street Fighter.
Yes. They made their claim to fame with the Street Fighter series. But these are the same makers of the game. And this was come out in 1993. And this is a side-scroller based off of the 1992 film of the Disney release of Aladdin. You basically take control of Aladdin by jumping on top of enemies. You throw apples at them, and you make your way through the city of Agrabah, just like in the real movie. This became Capcom's highest-selling game for the SNES after the Street Fighter games, of course. They were the most popular. IGN placed Aladdin, the SNES version, 60th on their all-time list of the top 100 SNES games of all time. Now, people might say, dang, Chad, that's kind of an odd pick from you. You're not really, big on a Disney franchise. And while it's true I'm not, me and my sister have vivid memories trying to beat the game. I consider this kind of like an Arabian version of Super Mario. It's a 2D side scroller, but if you replace Mario with Aladdin, Princess Peach with Princess Jasmine, you replace coins in Mario with red and green jewels that you find in Aladdin. You replace fireballs with apples. Then you kind of can see this is kind of like a play on Super Mario. Aladdin can somersault off of enemies. He can swing on poles found in the town. He hangs on edges of buildings when he jumps. There's also the ability when you're in the town, you find a rug, and that allows Aladdin to glide through the air, kind of like Mario, the suit that Mario used to wear that he used to glide in the air.
Yeah.
But overall, this is just an unexpected fun game with lots of playability. Aladdin, I saw it and, it's a good movie for the Disney, in that 90s era. I wouldn't say it's my all-time favorite, but out of the movies that were adapted into video games, this one, man, is up there. It's got a lot of good playability. It's got a good soundtrack. And in the middle of the game, you kind of take a reprieve and, you're passing levels and you're, fighting enemies and stuff. And then there's like a bonus stage where Aladdin and Jasmine ride through the air on the magic carpet, kind of like they did in the movie. And there are no enemies on this level. It's just jewels to collect to increase your lives and as you enter the second half of the game. So my fifth pick is going to be Aladdin. And if any listeners out there remember Aladdin, it did have a version on the Genesis as well. And some people like the Genesis version better. For me, I had the Aladdin on SNES, and me and my sister loved it. We loved playing it. And, I think we remember beating the game. It wasn't a particularly hard game, but it's very well adapted to the movie. What you see in the movie, you'll find in the video game. So that's my number 5.
Yeah, cool pick. That's one that I definitely did not play. And I have a feeling tonight, Chad, that based on our ages, we might not match too many because, like you said, you were kind of still a younger kid and I was a little bit older. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes tonight. Yeah,
and, the library of SNES is huge. So, that's going to even make us matching, somewhat of a low probability. But, right. My number 5, I know for sure that wasn't going to be on your radar, but I would definitely be interested in anybody that listens. If they have any memories of that game, please hit us up over there on Instagram.
All right, Chad, that's a great pick with Aladdin. So let's get to my number 5.
Hmm. Now, it sounds like some sort of fighting game, maybe. That would be my guess, but it doesn't ring a bell.
Well, you kind of close. It is a side-scrolling beat 'em up. My pick is from 1993 by publisher and developer Konami, and this is Batman Returns.
Okay.
So based off the 1992 movie Batman Returns, this movie is considered one of the best Batman films. Of course, this was the second movie with Michael Keaton, which featured Danny DeVito and Michelle Pfeiffer as Penguin and the Catwoman. The SNES release capitalized on the hugely popular side-scrolling beat-em-up genre where Batman brawls with various characters from the movie, such as a 16-bit version of Danny DeVito's Penguin and Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. It's kind of in the same genre as Final Fight, but that's not a bad thing. With plenty of stages that really show off the excellent visuals. There's a Batmobile level where you drive the Batmobile. Konami delivered another great game. So yeah, I'm a big Batman fan, especially those first two Keaton movies, and there's really nothing really special. It's your average side-scrolling, like I said, beat 'em up. It's got 7 different levels where you just go throughout Gotham City and take on, different hordes of villains and like that. And then, of course, you finally end up at the end of the game fighting the Penguin. The final stage is Penguin escapes to the abandoned Arctic world where Batman destroys his duck vehicle and ultimately gains the upper hand on Penguin once and for all. So, yeah, I like Batman, like I said, and this was a pretty fun game. There was parts in the game where you could actually grab 2 villains and knock their heads together or throw them up against walls or through glass plate windows. So, yeah, pretty fun game, and you get a couple different weapons like batarangs and a grapple gun. So, yeah, pretty fun game.
Yeah, and I remember I was fully entrenched in receiving my monthly copy of Nintendo Power during this time. I feel like I had a subscription for at least a couple years, and I do remember one of the magazines had like a level by level breakdown of this game. So,
Yeah.
And you got to think, by the time Batman, the original 1989, had a version for the NES, and then by the time Batman Returns comes out, Super Nintendo is pretty much replacing the NES. So, and this was a trend back then where a lot of these movie franchises were definitely getting paired up with a video game of sorts. Konami is huge in the arcade and the video game, so for them to team up with Konami, what I thought was a good thing. Even though the movie may have not been all that favorable, from the 1989 release,
Right.
you definitely knew they had to have a video game to pair with it. So, yeah, man, I think that's a good pick and something I would definitely would expect from somebody like you who likes the franchise.
Yeah, and all my info, Chad, that I got on my games, I found a website called NintendoLife.com, and they gave a list of their top 50 SNES games, and this one came in at number 43, but it's my number 5.
Gotcha.
All right.
All right, Ken. Well, this is my number 4 pick. Tell me if you recognize this soundtrack.
Okay.
Oh, man, I got the chills just hearing that one.
Okay, now it kind of gives me NBA Jam vibes, but I know that's not NBA Jam.
No, stop right there, sir. It is.
It is.
Yes.
Okay.
NBA Jam. Now, you would remember that the same theme was on the arcade, but this got ported over to the SNES in April of '93.
Okay.
And,
now, well, Chad, we matched.
We did it.
This is my number 2.
Ooh. So you just said you thought we might not match, and then here we go.
Well,
so
here we go.
My number 4 is your number 2.
Okay.
Well, we'll talk about them together. And, dude, this is, you know how big of a basketball fan I was, and this is right in the heart of that. I didn't make it to the arcade, even though this was a huge arcade success, developed by Midway, which Midway was a very big pivotal into the arcade scene. They ported this into the SNES. Now, a couple little bits of trivia. In the arcade, you could play as the Orlando Magic, and they had just drafted their superstar center, Shaquille O'Neal.
Right.
By the time the SNES came out, Shaquille O'Neal did what Michael Jordan did and basically owned the rights to his likeness. So NBA games couldn't put Shaquille O'Neal into their title because they had to sign a separate deal with Shaq. And that's a lot like what Jordan did. A lot of those games that were featured the Bulls, you had not number 23 on the Bulls, you had number 99. And but that was obviously Jordan trying to capitalize on his success. So unfortunately you couldn't get Shaq on the SNES, and I was huge on the Magic. This is right sort of after the time that Jordan retired and he left to go play baseball. So the fact that you couldn't have Shaq was kind of a bummer. But this game, man, is iconic in the world of sports and video games. A game that introduced the phrase "boom shakalaka" and "he's on fire" into pop culture lexicon. And another thing, that this game introduced a technique in video games called rubber banding, where it's an effort to keep the games close. So if you remember any game that you ever played on NBA Jam, there was never a blowout. It was always a very competitive, sometimes often coming to the last shot, to keep people to put quarters in those machines and to say, oh man, I was just one shot away. I could beat you. Let me try it again.
Right.
Very genius of them to introduce that AI technique. And, it made the game fun. It made it to where, anybody could pick up the game and not really have to require a whole bunch of button mashing. So, very, very playable, very easy to pick up. And of course the outrageous dunks and the sequences, just make this iconic. One of my favorite basketball games of all time. Hit me right in the early teenage years. And, so let's hear about why you picked number 2.
Yeah, I picked number 2 for this game because at the time, like you said, you didn't really play with a lot of people because of where you lived and stuff. Now, with me, I was in a Navy barracks that was, full of, younger guys like myself who were into the NBA and video games. And this game right here, man, I can remember many late nights with my barracks room filled with a bunch of guys playing all kinds of tournaments and just, yeah, man, it was so much fun. And just the on fire and the boom shakalaka, like you said, just, of course you had real NBA players in the game. And that's kind of what drew me to it also, was you could have some of the real life players in the game. And, it was a 2-on-2, nothing really hard about it, but it was definitely fun. And I think the best part of the game to me was when you hit that dunk and you shattered the backboard, the glass backboard.
Yep. And then when it went off screen and you came back, it was magically repaired.
Right. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite team?
Well, since I'm a Milwaukee Bucks fan, I would say the Bucks, but the 2 players from that team were, nobody really good. And whenever we would play, my buddies would be like, man, I never even heard of these guys. So
yeah,
you had the players that I have in my notes here for the Bucks was Brad Lohaus and Blue Edwards. So yeah, not very popular players, but I think probably other than the Bucks, I would always try to be, like the Utah Jazz with Karl Malone and John Stockton.
Yeah, that was a good duo. You always wanted to pick two players that kind of had opposite styles. You wanted a big bruising dunker and rebounder, and then you
Yes.
wanted sort of a small, quick 3-point guy.
Yep, for sure.
One of my favorite teams was the Sonics, Kemp and Peyton. And then I also like the Suns. I think they had Barkley and Kevin Johnson. And then the Magic, I can't remember who the Magic had. It was even before Penny Hardaway. I think it was Scott Skiles and Nick Anderson.
Yes.
But it was, but yeah, the fact that you couldn't play with Shaq was just a bummer. And there was no cheat code to put him in or anything like that.
No.
But this game, man, and even for people that are our age now, you know, they can remember NBA Jam like it was yesterday. And, there's a website, a clothing website called Homage, and they make NBA Jam t-shirts. And you know, the screen, the player select screen where you had the two players and then underneath it, you had the ratings.
Yes.
Well, they've got that now. Homage has done a whole bunch of them for NFL, MLB, WWE. They do all kind of stuff, and it makes it look like the NBA Jam start screen. But
wow,
dude, I'm glad we matched. I wasn't even thinking that but in the time that you were, you know, around those military bases and stuff. Yeah, what else was there to do other than play some video games, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man, for sure. And Chad, you know how we like our Funkos here. They do make 2-packs of NBA Jam Funkos also, and they kind of look like pixelated. I know they have, I think, the Houston Rockets, the New York Knicks, and maybe a couple other teams too. So be on the lookout for those if you're a Funko fan.
I'll have to check those out. And of course, the way the Funko Pops are designed, you know, the NBA Jam was known for the bigger heads and the smaller bodies. So
yeah.
That's cool. I'll have to look that up.
And on my ranking for the website that I found this they have this ranked at number 35 out of 50 for the top SNES games, which I think is a little high. I think it's a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I would agree.
And Chad, before we move on, why don't you hit my clip that I sent you for this one? It'll be clip number 2.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Welcome to NBA Jam!
Boom shakalaka! Nice.
There we go.
The iconic NBA Jam announcer, man.
All right.
Well, Ken, we did it, man. Another match.
Yeah, so that was my number 2. So that was your number 4, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so why don't we get to my number 4 then?
Okay.
Technodrome. Let's kick shout.
Now, I was going to say, that sounds like a sort of a club version of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, but tell us what it is.
Yeah, now, the one that I thought maybe we would match on would be this one, since you were a big Turtles fan back in the day, and this is TMNT 4 Turtles in Time.
Yeah, I do remember that game. The only reason by the time the SNES came out, I think my Turtles fandom had kind of waned a little bit, and I started going more to sports and stuff. Because as you remember in episode 1, one of my top 5 NES games was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game.
Yeah.
Which was the arcade that was ported to the NES. But,
right.
Yeah, tell us about this Turtles number 4, you say?
Turtles, yeah, TMNT 4, Turtles in Time. So this is ranked on NintendoLife.com as number 12 out of the top 50, released by Konami in 1992. And the plot of this game is Krang steals the Statue of Liberty, prompting the Ninja Turtles to come after it. But in their attempt to save the statue, Shredder sends the Turtles back in time to the age of the dinosaurs, and now the Turtles must fight their way back to the present. So this game this also was, I believe, an arcade game that was ported over. This game has a total of 10 stages, and you start out in 1992, and then you, of course, like it just said, you get sent back into prehistoric times, and stage 5 is in 25 million BC, and then stage 6 brings you back to 1530 AD, which is kind of like a pirate ship level. And then level 7 is like a Western where you're in 1885. And then level 8 brings you to the future where you're in 2020. And then stage 9 is also in the future, 2100. And then the last and final stage brings you back to 1992 where you're fighting Shredder. I think the gameplay is pretty much the same as it has been, whether arcade, you have the choice of the different turtles and their different weaponry.
Yeah.
And then what I have here from Nintendo Life, this says, what's a 16-bit console without a classic arcade-style side-scrolling beat-em-up? Turtles in Time matched the popularity of the license and tapped into the zeitgeist in the early 90s, coming from Konami at a time when it seemed the company had trouble producing a bad video game. So we've mentioned Konami a lot here tonight, and yeah, they seem to come up with great games, especially in the 90s.
Yeah, they were big on the NES platform, and they continued their success on SNES. So yeah, I can see why the Turtles in Time moniker fits the game. All the stages you just mentioned, and I am seeing an arcade cabinet that I don't remember seeing in the arcade, but definitely would have been the successor to the classic TMNT arcade game from a few years earlier. So. Yeah,
and I do believe just in the last year or two they put this game on a collective disc I have it for Nintendo Switch. They collected a bunch of Ninja Turtle games, and I believe this game is on that. So I've played it recently, and yeah, it's a fun game.
Yeah, even in the early 90s, they were trying to capitalize on the magic they had in the late 80s with the Turtles. So, and this was post, the Turtle movies. I think even Turtles number 3 had already come out by the time this video game had come out. So.
Right.
That's a good pick by you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
All righty. I'm going to get to my number 3 pick now.
All right. I don't know. You got me on this one, too.
Dude, these sound clips are just getting me chills.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, sports fans and hockey fans, you guys will know the sound of that jingle. I'm going to go on record here, Ken. My number 3 pick is NHL 94.
Okay.
This is the best hockey game that's ever been made. Bar none.
I would agree with you. The only difference between you and me is I had this game for Sega instead of Super Nintendo.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Yes, a lot of these had the cross-platform with Sega versus SNES. And now, if you do a lot of research deep into the NHL 94, you'll find people and reasons why they played both. One, they liked the Sega. One, they liked the Nintendo. Dude, this is the best hockey game, in my opinion, that's ever been made. And I'm saying that as a person who really doesn't like hockey that much.
Right.
I'm more of a basketball, football guy. So hockey is really not my thing. Now, I will tell you that my uncle who was in the military, he was a gamer. He was, my mom's youngest brother. When he came and visited, he would, he'd either play the games that we had or he brought his own, but he was from Michigan, so he was a Detroit Red Wings fan. And he, the Red Wings were big, popular, good team in the mid 90s. But, so I credit him to one that kind of got me liking this game. But Dude, this was released in the fall of '93. This is the first hockey game to be officially licensed by the NHL and the NHLPA. So that means real players, real teams, which was not very common in the 80s. In the 80s, you had a lot of sports games with generic teams. The Tecmo Bowl series, you remember, they had team colors and the names, the locations, but you couldn't say Raiders. You couldn't say Dolphins, right? You just had to give the city name. So, in the early 90s, these video game companies realized they needed to make deals with the Players Association, because who wants to play a hockey game and not be the Mighty Ducks, or my team was the Hartford Whalers. I just love their logo. I love their color scheme. I also love the Devils, the New Jersey Devils. They were a big team. Like I said, my uncle was the Red Wings guy. But, dude, the game, this thing, I played this in, emulator form in the last many years. The gameplay on this is so smooth. The passing is so crisp. The graphics were beautiful. To me, it's just the perfect sports game. So much that ESPN, back in sometime 10 years ago, somebody went on ESPN and ranked the all-time sports games of all time. I mean, from all platforms, and they ranked this number 2. Now, I would like to play a little game with you from that list. NHL 94 was voted number 2. What do you think number 3 was, and what do you think number 1 was? Just if you had to kick a guess.
Well, I'm going to say one of those are probably what we just talked about, NBA Jam.
No, they were on the list, but not that high. I'll tell you, I'll give you a hint. Number three was a title that you mentioned on the episode 1.
Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Yep.
All right.
And then number 1 is a game that I just mentioned, Tecmo Super Bowl.
Okay.
As voted by ESPN as the greatest sports game of all time.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
this game also featured for the first time ever the inclusion of one-timers. I don't know, Ken, if you're a hockey fan, but a one-timer is a pretty cool move.
Yes.
And before this, in other titles, there was really no one-timer to be had. So they developed it so it made the gameplay feel authentic and just like real-life hockey. And this also featured a 4-player mode. So this would have been a great party game in the 16-bit era.
Right.
So again, this could have easily been number 1 for me had I not picked the 2 that I picked. But I went with it number 3, and it's just, dude, to this day, man, when I hear that theme and I see the gameplay, I watch YouTube videos of people playing the game, man, it's just so good. It's just a good hockey game. It's a vertical playing game, so you're going up and down the ice, and each period, you would switch, so you would be shooting up top, and then next time you'd be shooting at the bottom. There was no fighting in this game like some other titles back in the Nintendo days, like Blades of Steel and some others. They had a little fighting sequence to kind of make the game a little bit more fun. But this game, it was just more about the realism and the gameplay and the authentic style of play. So it's just I can't say enough good things about NHL 94.
Yeah, a couple things about this game that I really like. Like I said, I didn't play it on SNES. I played it on Sega, but it was just so colorful. And like you mentioned, if you weren't going to bring it up, I was going to say the inclusion of the one-timers was really cool. Now, was this the game? I loved when you scored a goal, just the siren and the light would go off was cool.
Yep.
Now, was this the game that you could shatter the glass if you hit the puck correctly?
Yeah.
And, say you missed and you could break the glass?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but it could have been that maybe that was only on a Genesis and not SNES, maybe.
Okay.
I do know though very vividly that if a player would score 3 goals, all of a sudden hats would come raining down on the ice for a hat trick.
Wow, now I don't remember that. I don't know if that was on the Sega. Okay.
Yeah, that may have been exclusive to SNES. I don't know the differences between the two games in great detail,
Right.
but dude, either whatever platform you want it, man, it's just like, again, hockey is not in my top 3 or top 5 of sports that I enjoy to watch, but when it comes to gameplay, man, this one, for some reason, man, it just makes it high on my list over a lot of football games that I enjoy. So
Yeah. One thing I do remember about with this game too is when I would play against somebody, if I would get a goal scored on me, you could, you did your little celebration where you had about maybe 10 seconds and you could maneuver one of your players and you could just go and body check all the players who had just scored on you. You could knock them down. And I thought that was fun.
Yeah, they'd have a little picture in picture of the ref, and he would be calling penalties and sending guys to the box. Who is your, I told you my team, I kind of like the Devils and I like the Whalers. Who is your team when you picked?
A couple teams that I always went with were either the Chicago Blackhawks, probably the Pittsburgh Penguins. I would say that I had Mario Lemieux. And then at the time, can't remember if Wayne Gretzky was on the Edmonton Oilers or the LA Kings during that era. So, but whatever team he was on, I would always pick that team too.
Yeah, he would have been on the Kings, and then later he would be on the Blues. Yeah, you had Lemieux and Yager on the Penguins.
Yes.
You had, I'm trying to think, like the Kings, I think the Kings had Luke Robitaille. The Anaheim Mighty Ducks, they were a very popular team for kids because of the Mighty Ducks movies.
Right.
So that was a fun one. This was before also you had, before the Avalanche moved to Colorado, they were the Quebec Nordiques.
You're right.
And, they were in the game. And then, this was pre-expansion, so you didn't have some of the newer teams that would arrive in the late 90s and early 2000s. But,
no.
Yeah, man, this is just, again, down here in the South, hockey was not really now minor league hockey is pretty big. We have a team we've had for 30 years and pretty good. We've won a couple, ECHL titles. And it's always fun to go to those games, but watching hockey on TV, I've never really been able to get into it, but playing this video game, man, it's just gets me in all the feels.
Yeah, definitely a great game. So yeah, that's a good pick for your number 3.
All right, Ken. Well, let's shift gears and go to your number 3, and let's take a listen.
All right.
Highland. Round 1. Fight.
Oh, the sweet sounds of Capcom and Street Fighter, it sounds like.
Yeah, you know me, man. Like I've mentioned here on the show before, I think my all-time favorite video game franchise is the Street Fighter 2 franchise. But this is from, like you said, Capcom, released in July of 1994. And this is Super Street Fighter 2, The New Challengers. And this is ranked on NintendoLife.com at number 21 out of their top 50. So this version is a lot like the Genesis version, only with a few differences. The port features the same exact modes, and the options menu is the same as well. The game returned all 12 characters from the previous Street Fighter 2, with many of them having their basic and special techniques refined in order to adjust the overall balance. Some of the characters received new special attacks and animations, but this game is why I liked this game. They introduced 4 new playable characters. You had T-Hawk, Cammy, Fei Long, and DJ, and they were introduced to the game in addition to the returning roster, expanding the number of playable characters to 16. So, pretty much it was basically the same as the other games, same fighting style, same moves. And just like I said, just the introduction of the 4 new characters is what really drew me to this game. And that's why I have it at my number 3.
And listeners of our Retro Rumble episode would remember the question was posed to us, both of us, Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
I believe we both chose Street Fighter. Yeah, man,
Yes.
good pick. I've got a lot of good memories with Street Fighter. Who were your fighters who you used to pick?
Oh man. Well, from the original 12, I always liked, of course, Ken was my go-to because I could do most of his moves. I could learn the easiest, so I went to him a lot. But
Yeah.
then I also used Balrog, who was kind of a knockoff of a Mike Tyson
Yeah.
boxer.
Yep.
He was kind of slow and didn't have he didn't kick really or anything like that, but he had some powerful punches. I liked to use him a lot. And then probably my third go-to was probably Guile, American army army fighter with the big flat top.
Yeah.
I went to him a lot too. So yeah.
In his stage, he was always at the aircraft carrier, the base,
Yep.
His stage. I was a M. Bison guy. He was hailed from Thailand. I loved his little move where he would like corkscrew into you.
Yeah.
I did, Balrog, I liked him. And I did like, Zangief. He was like the USSR wrestler.
Right.
I remember he could pile drive you and power bomb you.
Yeah, I could never hit that corkscrew pile driver that he did because you had to hit the D-pad in a full 360 and then you had to hit a combination of buttons. I could never master that one.
And I know this is an audio podcast, but just here within my arm's reach, I have a few Street Fighter / G.I. Joe collabs. There's Blanca.
Yeah, man.
And then there's Ryu.
Right. I think I did that in one of my Toyline retrospectives a while back.
Yeah, and when you did that, I pulled these out, and then there's your boy Ken.
Yeah, all right.
And
Nice.
I think I got Chun-Li, E Honda. I think I got about half of the original fighters. The new fighters, they were cool, but nothing compares to the original 12, I think.
Yeah. Hey, since we're doing a little quick show and tell here, Jada Toys has come out with a line of Ultra Street Fighter 2, the final challengers. So here's a
Ryu.
Here's a Ryu figure, which is pretty cool. So
yeah, that is
nice. It's a fun line to collect.
Yeah. Had we talked about a top 10, I probably would have thrown Street Fighter Turbo on this. I do remember having that one. Street Fighter had a few different games on the SNES.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had the original Street Fighter 2, and then they had Turbo, and then they had a Super Street Fighter a few years later. So yeah, man. And then it's a franchise that still, today exists. I think aren't they planning to redo the movie?
Yeah, there's gonna be a movie coming out, I think sometime later this summer, and I believe going back to our wrestling roots, Roman Reigns is playing Akuma and Cody Rhodes is playing Guile.
Interesting.
So yeah, there you go.
All right, man. Well, that was a good pick there for number 3.
Yep. All right, Chad. Well, I already gave up my number 2, which I matched with your number 4. So why don't we get to your number 2?
All right. Here's my number 2 sound.
And is that a Mario game?
Yeah, it is a Mario game.
It is. Okay.
Yeah. Care to venture what type of Mario game?
All right. Well, I know you're a big Mario guy. This isn't Super Mario World, is it?
No. Good guess.
No?
Good
okay.
guess.
All right.
So this, the sound you just heard comes from the 4th best-selling SNES game of all time. It's 1992's Super Mario Kart.
Ah, it's Mario Kart. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Did you ever play this one?
I did not.
Oh man. This one was fun, man. This features, we talked about Mario, and we could do a show on Mario and all the different iterations that you would find some of the characters in, starting, with Donkey Kong, the original, and then going into Mario Golf and Dr. Mario. And
Yeah.
this edition just takes your lovable Mario characters and puts them on go-karts. 1992, there were 8 playable racers. You had Mario and Luigi. You had Princess Peach, Princess Toadstool, Bowser, Donkey Kong, Koopa Troopa, and Yoshi.
Okay.
And each driver had attributes that, made the playing field kind of even. Bowser and Donkey Kong were bigger, so they were a little slower, but they could also bang and bruise around a lot easier on the track. Mario had good top speed. He was kind of a good character to pick. The character I always pick was Koopa Troopa.
Okay.
I just liked the way the kart handled. It was very smooth because there was several modes in this game. You had one that was basically a time trial where you were just cutting laps, trying to get the best lap time. And then the fun one though was a racing mode where you were racing the 7 competitors on the track. And the thing that made this fun was, you raced these things, but also you would run over the question mark blocks that you find in normal Mario. You'd run over them on the track, and then you'd get weapons. Yeah. So sometimes you'd get turtle shells, you'd get banana peels, you'd get all kind of, you get one that's like
okay.
I'm trying to remember, but I just know the turtle shells were the ones you wanted, because if you had a green one and threw it out, it would just bounce off of stuff. But if you had a red one, the red one would actually have some little targeting feature where it would actually follow the cart in front of you.
Yeah.
So, it also had a battle mode where you basically are one-on-one on a track, and you're trying to fire weapons at each other. So it's not really more about racing. It's just more about, trying to attack your opponent. But, there were power-ups and obstacles that got in your way. So the racing was fun. It had several tracks, and it spawned many sequels in the future, all for like the N64, the GameCube, the Wii, the Game Boy Advance, and then of course now the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo DS were all of them had some sort of Mario Kart title in their heyday. So, just this original version, Super Mario Kart, it was fun to play. There was definitely a lack, back then there was a lack of NASCAR games. You know how big of a fan I was of NASCAR.
Right.
Some of the NASCAR games were just terrible, but I do remember this one, pretending like it was a NASCAR game and just pretending like I was a driver out there on the track. So that is my all-time number 2 favorite game, Super Mario Kart.
Yeah, man, that's a good pick. My introduction, I mean, of course, I knew about the game back in the day, but I didn't really play this game until the Switch with Super Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Me and my family, we're all about that game, man. We'll sit there and have races against each other, and yeah, it's a really fun game. But yeah, the original, you don't have all these other games without that one.
No, not at all.
Yeah, good pick.
All right, Ken. Well, I guess I'll go again because we all heard your number 2 was NBA Jam.
Yep.
So I'll just double up, and we've reached the number 1 pick for both of us.
Yep, we're here.
And this is going to give people that like this game will know this sound right away. I'm curious if you know this game and have played this game. Let's take a listen.
All right. I think I know this one, Chad. Is this Donkey Kong Country?
Yes, indeed.
All right.
1994 release by Rare Entertainment. this game kind of brings back the classic version of Donkey Kong. You know, he had been sort of missing in action for about 10 years. You know, when the NES came aboard, it was all about Mario and his sidekick Luigi and stuff. But 1994 sees the return of Donkey Kong and his nephew Diddy Kong. And it's basically a side scroller akin to a Super Mario Brothers, where you're going through different levels and fighting different villains and enemies. Electronic Gaming Monthly awarded it the Game of the Year and SNES Game of the Year. And in 1995, it won Favorite Video Game on the Kids' Choice Awards. Time magazine ranked it 1994's Best Product of the Year.
Wow, okay.
The levels on this game are fun. It's got 40 side-scrolling levels, and some of the most fun levels, the one I loved the most, a lot of people love, was a level where you ride in a minecart.
Yeah.
And you're traversing through a minecart, having to jump over obstacles and stuff. It has an awesome soundtrack. I mean, if you just go out to YouTube and type in Donkey Kong Country, you'll hear 20 or 30 clips, music clips from the game that you would hear in different levels. Much like Mario had various themes you had an underwater theme, and you had the sky theme, and you had the normal theme, and then you had the enemy level theme where the music got really intense. Same thing here with Donkey Kong. You know, I think this was SNES's way of trying to make Donkey Kong a little bit more iconic like Mario had been. You know, Mario, of course, came with the Super Mario World was the big thing. I think a lot of times that game came with the console.
Yeah.
Kind of like in the NES, it came with Mario 1. But another good thing about this game is it features 4 animals that you could ride on in certain levels. There was a rhino, a swordfish, an ostrich, and a frog. So it takes concepts from Super Mario 3 and adapted it for a gorilla and his sidekick. Enemies in Donkey Kong Country varied from crocodile pirates, but also things like vultures, beavers, snakes, wasps, and armadillos. Animals that you really didn't find in other games. So, you know, you're in the jungle on some things, you're underwater in some games and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just a fun game. And this game I picked number 1 because when it comes to memories of growing up, me and my mom and my sister all played this together. And it was one of those games where one of us would control it and the other would sort of coach them and try to tell them to avoid certain things. We actually, one day, somehow we bought the official guide to this game that basically laid out all the maps.
Yeah.
So we would, one of us would be in charge of reading the manual, and we'd say something like, okay, I'll tell my sister, okay, you got to go this way, or tell my mom, you need to jump on this tree to get this. And one of the funny things is my mom, she was not really one to play a lot of games with us, but she played this one quite a lot. And we would always, our goal was always just to try to get to the end of the level. But my mom had this thing where she would always want to get every coin that was in the level. So we'd sit there and she'd try to jump, and then of course you're like, all right, I got to do that again. I didn't run fast enough to jump. And she's just trying to get, like, there's this one coin in the corner of the screen, and me and my sister are like, come on, Mom, let's just go, like, but she tried to get every coin. And I shouldn't say coin, it was actually bananas.
Yeah, okay.
That's their version of the coins. But, so yeah, we were focused on trying to get to the end, and Donkey Kong also had, like, kind of like in Mario 3, they had these checkpoints. And if you got to the checkpoint and you ran out of lives, well, you could start back at the checkpoint. And, so we were always just trying to get to the checkpoint, but it was a fun memory. It's one that always, when I think about that game, I think about my mom, I think about my sister, just all, crammed into my bedroom, wherever the SNES was, and just, Friday nights, Saturday nights, just trying to progress and beat the game. I think we ended up did beat it, but and of course once you beat the game, that's it kind of symbolizes the end of your time with that game, so it's a little bit bittersweet. I don't know
Yeah.
if you had games like that, but that's my number one. Just iconic, big title for SNES. And did you
Right.
have any experience with that?
I did not play. See, like I said, back then, man, the age I was just more about either the fighting games or the sports games. I never really got into the Mario or the Donkey Kongs,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, Donkey Kong's, synonymous with Nintendo, and yeah, that's a huge title, and yeah, I never really actually sat down and played it, but yeah, it sounds like a great game.
It's fun. I would say more along like a family title. Like it's not an RPG game,
Yeah.
but it's got elements of that, but it's just a fun game to play and like watch people play too. Like I said,
Right.
I didn't mind watching my sister or my mom play because it was fun because you were like, when you die and you're like, okay, next time I gotta watch out because this enemy does something just like this, and then next time you're like, okay, we got it, and then 5 seconds later you fall prey to the next enemy.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's just a fun game, so it's always going to be my number one.
Yeah. And Chad, going back to those game guides, man, those books would be super thick too.
Yeah, kids pre-internet, man, you couldn't find anything. You didn't have a resource like Google, but
No.
yeah, these guides, man, were helpful. They basically, picture guide of the level. You know where all your bonuses and one-ups were and stuff. And yeah, it was fun. But yeah, shout out to the minecart level. That was always the fun level. And it was, if you go on YouTube and type in the minecart level, it's very nerve-wracking to watch somebody near the end because you're literally in the minecart jumping over broken train tracks and stuff. Is just really cool.
Right. Well, great pick, man, for the number one.
All right, Ken. Well, I'm interested to see what you're going to round out our show here with. Ken's number one SNES title.
Yep.
Let's give it a listen.
Narcissus, parent. Fight! One, two, three, 4, 5.
If I didn't know any better, that sounds like a souped up version of Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Yeah, man, this is Super Punch Out, released September 14th, 1994, produced and developed by Nintendo. So yeah, this is just the next version of Mike Tyson's Punch Out called Super Punch Out. Like the previous titles in the Punch Out series, Super Punch Out requires good timing and pattern recognition skills to react to the attacks of each opponent. In this game, you have Little Mac is back, and he has to work his way up the new 4 circuits of the World Video Boxing Association. So Mike Tyson's Punch-Out only had 3 circuits. This one has 4.
Mm-hmm.
And as the player proceeds through the game circuits, the opponents will be a lot more varied in their skill set. And another new thing about this game, it has no rounds. Unlike the previous game, there are no rounds. Instead, matches take place in 1 3-minute period. If Mac fails to score a KO or a TKO within 3 minutes, a time up is declared and the match is recorded as a loss for Mac. The clock stops whenever Mac or his opponent are knocked down. However, the time bonus continues to count down when Mac is knocked down. So yeah, so there are some returning characters from the previous game, and then there's some new characters. I'll just kind of go through them real quick here. In the minor circuit, you have a Glass Joe variant. His name is Gabby J. He's like an old man. He has the same record, 1-99. And then you have a first appearance from a character named Bear Hugger. And then your third opponent is, instead of Piston Honda, his name is Piston Hurricane, and instead of from Japan, he's from Cuba. And then the champion of the minor circuit is Bald Bull, which he's back from Tyson's Punch-Out.
Mm-hmm.
And then going to the major circuit, you have a Jamaican, Bob Charlie, a Bruce Lee type character named Dragon Chan, which in that fight, man, he'll do like jumps and he'll kick you instead of punch. You have a masked luchador wrestler character called Masked Muscle. Mr. Sandman is back. And then you have a couple more characters and you end up fighting Super Macho Man again, and he's back. And then instead of fighting one champion, you fight two characters and they're twins. One is named Rick Bruiser and the other is named Nick Bruiser. So you have to fight these two guys back to back. And I have gotten as far as the final character, Nick Bruiser, but I've never been able to beat him. So yeah, I can't remember, Chad, if way back in episode 1, if I picked Mike Tyson's Punch-Out as my number 1 NES game. I'd have to go back and listen.
I think you did. If it's not number 1, I know it was number 2.
Okay, yeah.
But I want to say it was number 1.
All right. So yeah, we're kind of repeating here. Super Punch-Out. I've played this game with my kids and we have fun playing it. And yeah, I like the franchise. I like the series. And yeah, this game was fun to play too.
Yeah, and the original NES version had built up such a legendary cult status that, you know, SNES was going to do something. Although I find it interesting, this game, you don't find any references with Tyson.
No, not at all.
Now, if you listen to our previous shows, we've talked about Tyson. You know, we talked about him in our Halloween episode and some of the scariest athletes of all time. But if you remember, you know, Super Nintendo was very family, kid-oriented. You know, it was famously known for not having blood in some of the games where Genesis did. But you got to think that SNES made an obvious decision because Tyson at this time, he was in legal trouble. Right. He was in jail. I don't even think he was fighting at 94. I think it was 95 when he gets out of jail. So you got to think SNES didn't want to market around him, which that's why the other one, I like it so iconic because it was when Tyson was at the height of the boxing, and, you know, him being on the cover just makes it even greater. This one is a natural sequel to that game. And, I never got to play it, but you knew they were going to have to capitalize on the success of the original for sure.
Right. Yeah, and this one's easy to find. You can find it on different emulators, and it's also, I believe, on the Nintendo Switch online connection. So if you have a Nintendo Switch, you can find it there too. So it's pretty easy to get a hold of.
Well, that's awesome, man. I figured Punch-Out would be up there, but you're number 1, Super Punch-Out for SNES. So
what can I say, man? I'm a sucker for the Punch-Outs.
Well, Ken, there you have it, right?
That's it, man. Top 5s. We matched what? 1?
Yeah, we matched on our NBA Jam. I didn't really have any other games I was considering. You know, there were games I had, but not, these are truly a top 5 for me, as I know for you as well.
Yes.
And, learning that you had a Genesis in the same time frame, probably gets me to think that soon we'll have to do a top 5 Sega Genesis titles.
Yeah, I believe we do have that somewhere in our topic tank. So yeah, I'm sure we'll eventually get to it one of these episodes.
There you have it, folks. Let us know on Instagram, over on our website, theretroresurgence.com. What do you think of our list? Were you an SNES girl or guy? And what were your favorite titles for that platform? The 16-bit era during the 90s was huge for the industry. And in a few years in the 90s after this sort of heyday is where you start getting into the 32 and 64-bit platforms.
Yeah.
The newcomer Sony comes into play and introduces the PlayStation. And then in Nintendo, of course, follows suit with the N64 So, yeah, these consoles are classic. A lot of memories tied up into them, and I was glad we were able to talk about them tonight.
Yeah, me too. This was a fun episode. I always like talking video games. We like talking video games here, whether it be on your home platforms or arcade games. They're always fun episodes that bring you back. And like you said, when you were playing the clips, Chad, the sound clips started giving you chills, and it brings you back to those days.
Yeah, man. Music, as we know, we've done a few music shows, but music is a very key element to a lot of nostalgia. You know, you hear a TV theme song or a jam, a jingle from the 90s, a commercial, you hear a tune, it just kind of transports you, and music really helps with that. So yeah, it was your call to throw in those clips. So I'm glad we did that.
Yeah.
Well, Ken, I think that just about wraps it up. Anything you want to add before we close?
No, just it was a fun episode. Do you want to tease what we got coming up?
Yeah, Ken, you know, in a couple weeks after you hear this, we'll be getting back online with our buddy Gary,
Yeah.
who runs the Retro Network. You remember the episode back in, what was it, early November?
Yeah, sometime in November, yeah.
Yeah, we started our massive mega Weird Al Bracket Madness tournament. By the time that episode drops, we'll be in the midst of the basketball tournament. So
Yeah,
what a
definitely.
great time to be talking tourney. And we'll be doing round 2 with Gary, and we've got 16 more Weird Al hits.
Yes.
From the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and even 2010 is snuck in there as well. And we'll be whittling that list to come up with a winner for round number 2. Looking forward to recording that episode with him. And, you know, Weird Al will be prominent throughout the whole year as we make our way through 2026.
Right.
We'll eventually culminate in a final 4 that the 4 winners of each round will battle to become the ultimate Weird Al hit. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. And if you listen to that first episode we did, you'll know that Eat It took that bracket. So yeah, we'll have the second bracket coming up, and yeah, it's going to be a fun time.
Yes, it will. And as always, like, share, rate, review, whatever you can do to help us grow over there in the podcast world. We certainly would appreciate it. Stay tuned to Instagram, to our website for updates. I know Ken and we've got a couple things brewing, a couple new projects and new ideas that we're working on. Nothing official as of yet, but we stay tuned to those podcast feeds. You may see a thing or two sneak in there unexpectedly that we'll be excited to announce.
Right.
So Ken, man, it's been fun.
Yes,
and
sir.
Always enjoy going retro and back in time with you.
Yeah, it's always a good time, Chad, talking about those days past and childhood. And yeah, we will see you in a couple weeks for episode 37.
Thanks for listening to the Retro Resurgence podcast. You can find us on most major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also find and engage with us on social media at the following: on Instagram at The Retro Resurgence, on X at Retro Resurgence. You can also reach out to us on our email, which is theretroresurgence@gmail.com. And you can also find us at our website, www.theretroresurgence.com. And lastly, you can also find us online at our flagship, the Retro Network, at www.theretronetwork.com, where you'll find lots of great retro and nostalgic content. Leave us a rate and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Join us again in 2 weeks here on the Retro Resurgence podcast.
And that wraps up another episode of the Retro Resurgence podcast. We're so grateful you joined us today and took a trip down memory lane with us. And we can't wait to bring you more retro goodness in our next episode. Until then, keep embracing the past, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.
This has been a presentation of the Retro Network.